great, but like all these other ideas just keep like popping in, popping in, popping in, popping in. Hey beautiful people, welcome back to the vlog. This is now week 2 of NaNoWriMo, and so we are starting the thick of it. So it is November 8th, first day really of the second week, and I have finally moved on from my short story to my longer novel, which is a speculative fiction novel. Essentially, I'm doing the same thing that I did with the very first short story, which is going back, reading what I have, and then making like completely new decisions and adding completely new things in. So I actually am very excited that I decided to veer in and do a red herring in my story, which currently did not exist in the previous version of it, but I'm currently working on. And it really feels good to have the opportunity and time to like think through, oh, okay, like what can I actually change about this to make it more exciting or more effective, or to like leave little breadcrumbs for readers throughout the book versus just telling the story like from beginning to end. So I'm really excited to be able to like get through and bite off a pretty big chunk of this novel. One of the things I really wanted to dig into this week is world building. So really being able to like have a vision for the world that you're creating within your novel so that it feels very immersive to your reader. And so this book is set in the near future. And it was important that I thought through what things had changed in this different society than what is currently happening in the world today. What are the implications of these things? What major events have happened? And how has the society responded to those major events? And it's really just added another layer of like color and complexity to the novel. So as you may remember in my Preptober video, I started thinking through what the religious system would look like in this novel, because if we're in a like dystopian future society where people have given up hope and are looking for, someone to come in or entity to come in and provide salvation or redemption, or to give people like a second chance at life post Earth, then they need something to believe in. So really spending time thinking through the psychology behind how would these people operate in space, how would they operate in their society and in their community, what things would capture them, what things would they dispel, how would they rationalize what is happening to them and their earthbound experience at that time. I'm also trying to do a lot more with the character development as well. So really thinking through people's motivations, what things do they hide, why do they hide those things, do they hide them because they care for other people, how do people make different decisions, and really kind of getting more to the core of like how people and humans operate in space and in community with each other. It's really like, I think the goal for week 2 was to really like dig deep into the world building and the character development so that these things can really start to shine through in my story. Hello, welcome back everybody. It is now day 11 of NaNoWriMo. Today is Friday, and honestly, we're just in the thick of it. So it's funny that when I actually have the brain capacity and the mental space to be able to like think about writing and able to consume things, all these ideas just start rushing to me. So literally this week, I've come up with 2 new story ideas. And I really want to pivot and start writing one of the other ideas. And I'm trying to make myself like take my time and stay committed to the story idea that I already started. And it's tough. I am now probably like, really deep into the first fourth of my novel. I think I'm on chapter either 5 or 6. And that's been going great. But like all these other ideas just keep like popping in, popping in, popping in, popping in. And it makes me want to like stop and like move on to them, especially because one idea that I have, I think is a really good idea, and it's a short story. And so I'm sitting there like, could I actually like pause for a second, spend like 3 to 4 days on this short story and get that done and then go back to my novel. But I've decided with all the strength in me not to do that. I'm gonna continue on with my novel. And if I'm still interested in this idea in December, then I'll pivot to it then. But honestly, it's not easy. It's not easy to like stay committed to an idea. And honestly, like as a person who's already a pantser, so like I kind of plan a little bit and the rest of it is really just me going by the seat of my pants. I understand how I got here, like how I got to this place. Also, I was really inspired by the Afrofuturism documentary that the Smithsonian put out. It came out yesterday, so Thursday at 8 p.m. On the Smithsonian channel, because at the Blacksonian, there's going to be a new exhibit all about Afrofuturism that includes like Octavia Butler's typewriter, and the space suit that Trayvon Martin wore when he went to space camp, and just a lot of other really interesting artifacts from the Afrofuturism space about Black folks. And not only was it like just great to be immersed in Afrofuturism, and so that already got my like brain cells moving and like thinking of ideas. But this dude that I went to college with, who became a animator, did a lot of the animations on the documentary, and it was just cool to watch because there's like, you know, these really beautiful photos of like, you know, space themed and like young Black children juxtaposed in Baltimore City. And so the work is by Kyle Yearwood. I'll like link him somewhere here, but like, yeah, check out his work and also check out that really cool documentary. And so the other thing on my mind today are basically some of the like side research and books that I've been looking into. So if you checked out my October wrap-up video, you will see that I basically announced that I won't be really reading anything for November. And when I say not reading anything, like I don't actually mean like reading nothing, but I didn't really want to read any fiction because for me, fiction takes up a lot of space in my head. I'm thinking about the story ideas and like the story that I'm listening to all the time, right? Because I'm really immersed in that world. And so I didn't really want to be like bogged down in that when I'm also trying to create and write my own fiction. But I am doing some like research. So I have a few books that are specifically fiction books that I'm checking out this month and reading through. And then the other are some reference books that I'm going to use to go back and really shore up the magical system in my short story that I just finished. Okay, so the first one y'all have seen on this channel already. It's Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody. And so I have the hard copy for this, but I also really like to listen to the audiobook, which is what I've been doing. So I'm just kind of continuing to go through this and like trying to really better understand like some of the beat structures that are there. So like fun and games, the debate, because I'm getting really close to those parts in the book. And I really want to make sure I have like a solid foundation of like how to write those sections really well. So checking out this one. The other one is called Craft in the Real World, and it is by Matthew Salesi. And this is a really good book. It's the subtitle is Rethinking Fiction Writing and Workshopping. And so the entire front section basically just explains, if you ever been to a writing workshop, they oftentimes are very highly problematic, especially if you are a writer of color or more specifically a Black writer, because you're often in a space with predominantly like white folks who maybe don't understand any of the cultural references or like the intentionality behind your work, and it's just problematic as I don't know what. And so he spends like the very beginning of the book talking about that. And so I read through those pieces, but I haven't really got the opportunity to like really dig deeper into the book and like go further. So I'm planning on checking this one out. And then the last one that I have, I don't even remember when I picked this book up, but it's called Mastering Suspense, Structure, and Plot, and it is by Jane Cleveland. So I just started this one. She is a suspense writer, and like, while I wouldn't consider the books that I'm writing like explicitly suspense, I do want them to have some suspense elements because, you know, my genre is really speculative, but I do think it's important to like include some of those elements in your storytelling as well. And so I've gotten through the first chapter of this, and I think that there might be like a few interesting things for me to pull out. So I'll let you know how this book is as well. Separate to that, I have these huge books. So you may know that in my short story that I just finished up for the top half of NaNoWriMo, there is magical realism in the book, and it's really based around like some traditional folklore, African American, Black diasporic systems of like magic and religion. And so I have two books that I've had for a while, both of which I kind of bought with inspiration to make sure that I'm sharing folklore with my children. But since I have them, I'm going to be using them as reference. So the first one is called Her Stories, African American Folk Tales, Fairy Tales, and True Tales. And this one is told by Virginia Hamilton. And if you know Virginia Hamilton, Virginia Hamilton's work in general is just like amazing. And so, there are like, books in here and stories in here about like boo hags and like people who made deals with the devil, and the original creation story and why like man and woman have like uneven power basically. And so I started reading some of those yesterday and they were really great. So I'm trying to figure out if there's any inspiration there that I want to use. And this other one is super heavy. It is called The Annotated African American Folktales. It's edited with a forward introduction by Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Maria Tartar. And I have not really opened this one yet at all, but I will say that it's supposed to include essays, 150 African American stories, 20 seminal African tales with historic background. It has a whole section about the Caribbean, Latin America folk tales, all of the like Rare Rabbit series as well. And so like if you're into folk tales and like African religious systems, all those things that like kind of are embedded in Black culture, I would say check this one out. When I saw it was by Henry Louis Gates, I was like, okay, this should be good. And so I'm going to use this one for reference as well. So my short story, it kind of includes like a reference to like Anansi the spider. So I read a lot of Anansi books growing up as a kid. My local library, the Ena Pratt in Baltimore, the main branch had just a ton of like books on tape. And so you would go and you would rent the book and then get the tape that goes with it. And they just had like a slew of Anansi books growing up. So like I'm very familiar with Anansi the spider. And then I think I kind of like got re-excited or exhilarated about Anansi when I watched American Gods, and there was that just amazing monologue done. And if you haven't seen that monologue, you got to check it out. Like to me it was like a game-changing monologue, honestly. Just about like the plight of Black people like from Africa in America during the transatlantic slave trade. And so that got me like, okay, look, I have to do something with Anansi at some point. And then there's also been some other things I've learned. So I had never heard of John Henry. That was not a folktale that I was familiar with, but my husband is from Georgia and he knows a lot about John Henry and was like really, that was something that, he heard tales of as a kid. So I have been doing some research about John Henry a little bit. And then separately, as I've been doing more research into hoodoo, because my family is Gullah Geechee from South Carolina, I've been doing a little bit more like research into like root work and hoodoo, and then also of course came upon like High John, and so I've been like doing more research about that as well. And so I'm trying to figure out how to like push some of these elements together in a way that makes sense into my story. And I'm thinking like, do I need to choose different elements and not those as well? I don't know, but anyway, I need to do some reference to really be able to shore up the magical system in my books. And so that is basically what I've been working on for the last couple of days. I'll definitely keep y'all updated on like how these books are and if I feel like they have been helpful to my writing experience. If you have any books that you really like, so one, if you have any writing books that you think have been great and really amazing and giving you like good insights into writing, please drop them below in the comments. And then if you have any suggestion books of like books around like African diasporic folk tales or like magical religious systems, please drop them down below as well. I know that I really need to read something by Zora Neale Hurston, obviously, because she's done so much work in recording hoodoo. But until I get to that point, this is what I'll be doing. So this is a little look into my process and where I am right now. I am steadily writing. I've definitely been able to get, my word counts over the days. And really to me, these are the last, these next several days are gonna be the pushes that I need to try to really make a serious dent in this novel. All right, y'all, until next time.